clip of pictures that Pam and I took on a recent trip that we had to Aberdeen, Maryland. And just as kind of an overview, we went on this trip because the United States government had gotten a hold of Pam's relative in Broken Bow because they were looking for relatives that might still be in the area from Pam's uncle that died in World War II. And the reason they were looking for relatives were that they were building a new tank in production just this year to replace the old tank that was the Abrams tank. And the Abrams tank was first built in the early 70s. And so the United States Army hasn't had a new tank since the early 70s. And so they have been working on this for quite a while, and they had to obviously name it after somebody. And I have no idea what process they went through to name this tank, but they named it the M10 Booker. And the part of that is important to us is the name Booker, because Pam's uncle was Robert Booker. And the tank was named after him and another guy that we'll show you about later by the name of Stefan Booker, and he was out of Pittsburgh. And so they had both of those guys did some tremendous things in the service. Robert Booker, her uncle, got awarded the Medal of Honor and or the Congressional Medal of Honor and the Purple Heart. And so over the years, they've had some small things for him, but I'm not sure again how they picked him out to get this award, but it was a big deal. And so we got to fly to Maryland, and Pam got to go for free and I got to pay for my flight. So the government is still being a little bit stingy, but that's okay. So anyway, I'm going to get this started so we can get it over with. Okay, so this is, when we first got together, we all had to drive to Lincoln, and we boarded an airplane at Lincoln, and this is just a picture of us. And the government representatives from the Army that were there to escort us had several of these signs made and some flyers and whatnot made, so, okay.
These are all relatives of Pam's, right?
Yep,
Okay.
these are all Pam's relatives.
And my 91-year-old aunt.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
was his only surviving,
Sibling.
yeah.
Wow.
She was 10 when he was killed in the service.
This is not the best, it's not a PowerPoint presentation, so it's gonna be,
Okay, so
it is
this,
what it is.
this picture just shows basically us and the escorts from the Army that went with us. They met us after we parked our car, walked in, and then they escorted us from there. We didn't have to decide where to go or when to do it or whatever. They escorted us. So again, a few more signs and
What's this one? So
We're
your aunt
just
is doing
passing.
something.
I'm not sure how you got all of these because I had strict orders for Dave not to send some of them.
I think I only sent 73 pictures.
Yeah.
I got 57 of them, so.
If you can like get to the pictures of the tank, that would be great.
No, we're gonna, this is an
Okay,
important one.
this is a picture of Pam's 91-year-old aunt giving a live interview for the TV station in Lincoln, Nebraska. This is just a little bit about her uncle. He was officially designated the M10 Booker in June, the tank was, and then it just tells shortly thereafter about he was killed on the 9th of April, and 1943 and Tunisian campaign of the World War II. And then the other guy is Staff Sergeant M10 Booker, and he was killed in
Sorry.
2003 in Iraq.
Okay, this one you can't hardly see it all, but it's a,
This was us flying into
No,
Philadelphia.
we flew into Baltimore.
Baltimore.
this is bigger.
This is a picture of where we stayed when we were there. We got to stay at the Cal Ripken Junior Baseball field. It's a complex. Just to the right of the circle, if you can see that little circle, is a semi-pro baseball team stadium. And then everything else around us is Little League baseball fields. And they were just absolutely incredible. There's a picture of one of them, and they all looked that good, and I think there were 11. There is our escorts. They had vans lined up to bus us everywhere. We didn't have to drive, which was good, because it would have been horrible. Because GPS or not, it would have been horrible. These guys were from there, knew the way to get around, had GPS, had all these vans, and so it was spectacular, the treatment that we got.
Okay, so you're still in Philadelphia now, where this was?
This is Aberdeen,
Yep,
so.
that's in
Yeah.
Aberdeen, Maryland. That's the Chesapeake Bay, which is right there off of the coast at Aberdeen. One of the little short stops that we were able to make was this Concord Point Lighthouse. And it's quite a spectacle, but that's what it is.
Okay, I'm trying to find,
And
No,
it
I
was
think
close to the Gold Star Family Memorial,
Right.
and that was the reason that we were there.
Trying to find, I thought we skipped past the one with you in the baseball field.
Oh, that's
Oh, wait a
all
minute, it's coming up, okay. Just more,
Yep.
anything else?
This is just a picture of the area, which it was a really, really historic, just a beautiful scenery of the flowers and the trees and the older buildings, and it was a great place to just go walk around and look. Again, that's just a picture of the Chesapeake Bay. And the flowering crabapple tree. That was actually a place that you could go walk through. It was some historical place, but we were under a little bit of time pressure and didn't get to go in.
Keeper's house, I don't know what that would mean. Something keeper's house, what would that mean?
And there's Pam's 91-year-old aunt standing in front of the lighthouse. The Tidewater Grill was a place that we were able to eat before we went and had our celebration the next day, but that was about as authentic a food as you could get, and it was fresh, and boy, it was just very good.
Is it seafood?
Yep. That's just a picture of a toll bridge on the Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake Bay. And again, those people would just stand out there in the rain and wait for us, because it was raining fairly hard right then.
Or drawbridge?
Little close-up picture of the toll bridge. Just a little sign that kind of gave a definition of the Concord Point Light Station. It was a historical monument that was used way early. Yep.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, I told Pam Maryland's kind of pretty. This is it's called the Gold Star Monument. And it was just built and placed right beside this lighthouse place in honor of any of the Gold Star families that were awarded that particular award. And so it talks about, you know, different things, patriotism, honor, glory. It's just a really, really cool monument.
What I think is cool about, that's a cutout, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the inside of there, of
Yeah.
the servicemen.
Yep.
Oh, there you are.
Oh,
Sorry. That got
yeah.
out of order, sorry.
Okay, back to the Cal Ripken Junior Baseball Complex. They had individual fields marked with specific teams. There was a Red Sox field, Yankee Stadium, which is where I'm standing, which is kind of unique because I'm a Yankees fan, which people don't really care, but but there were all of these fields were marked with some sort of a major league team field. That is the other half of this whole thing that we went down there for. This guy was Stevan Booker, and he got the Distinguished Service Cross because of his bravery in the Iraq War. He was a staff sergeant and somehow redirected gunfire from the opposition towards him, and he had to stand on the tank to get their attention while their people were getting away. So he that's when he lost his life, and because of what he did, saved the lives of numerous people. That is Pam's uncle in his younger days. He'd have been, what, 22, 23? But that's, he was a private infantryman, but it's showing the Medal of Honor that he got awarded. One of the things that probably is somewhat special about this whole ceremony that we went to is the fact that I was approached by several military officials, and they said, you know, you need to understand how big of a deal this is, because when we name a vehicle or an airplane or a tank or a submarine or a boat or whatever after anybody, it's primarily generals and presidents. And they said this was the only case that they knew of that was anything less than presidents and generals. So it was kind of a big deal. The battle that he was in Tunisia in 1943, and it was called the Battle of Fondue. And it was in South Africa? North Africa?
I don't know where Tunisia is.
I don't remember.
For some reason I think it's
And then this is the other poster of the Battle of Baghdad in Iraq in 2003. Just some of the things that they had made up for both of the families that were there.
Did you get to take the flight home? Did somebody?
We did no. So, okay, this was a celebration that was a get-together at a local bar that the Army rented for the night. They wanted a place to gather together and have both families, Stevan's family and Robert's family. And boy, you want to talk about people that come from different sides of the equation. You know, you got half of this place stacked with people from Pittsburgh and the other half from Callaway.
The middle of Nebraska.
Callaway.
So you've got half of the room filled with people from little town Nebraska and the other half from big town Pennsylvania. So that is a picture of Ruth's aunt, Rose.
No, that would be Ruth's sister, Pam's aunt Rose, and Stephen's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what did I say? Anyway, that's Pam's aunt and Stefan's mother, right? And they really got along well, and I think today are still communicating back and forth, so.
They call each other. She sent my aunt letters, and my aunt, even being 91 years old, she does really well at texting. So she will text.
That's fantastic.
Okay, and this is the day of the actual ceremony, and it was at a base in Aberdeen, Maryland, that was an experimental station for the Army. And by experimental station, they tested a lot of ammunition, firearms, tanks, not only ours, but other people's like Russia, China, Japan, and the thing that I probably remember the most is when we went there, there was not a building that had a door open. You could walk around, and they were certainly glad to have us there, but they didn't want us going in anywhere. And when visiting with one of the officials there, they said, again, this is a really, really, really big deal, because there has never been a civilian on this base ever. And so that was kind of a big deal.
You can't read it, but this sign says M10 Booker Combat Vehicle. That's what that big sign says.
Oh, yep.
Whoop, sorry.
This is just showing some of the work that they had done. I mean, this place was cleaned up like probably it's never been cleaned up before. Flags and tents and the Army band and just all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah, there's a little closer. M10 Booker, and they call it a combat vehicle, but it's a tank. I mean, it's, if it looks like a tank and smells like a tank, it probably is a tank. But this is just, again, some of the pictures showing the stuff that they had made and put out the day of the actual ceremony. That little insignia thing in the middle, there's a slide on that here in just a minute. But that's somewhat significant because that there's a couple of duplicates in
Yeah,
there.
well, these are on easels, like they maybe were in a different spot.
Yeah, yeah.
So
These
this
were the
with
ones that they had
the
at
round
the,
side.
yeah, yeah. There's the actual tank, and there's the 4 types of shells that they shoot out of that tank. And I guess just in a nutshell, for anybody that's into the Army stuff at all, some of those shells had like a broomstick sticking out of the top. And what that was is when that hit something, it would shove that broomstick handle down into the shell further and set off an explosion. And the one guy told me, he said they don't have a concrete wall out there that can't blow a hole through. So just kind of tells you the power of that vehicle.
Weren't you telling me how far some of these missiles go?
Yeah, they did a little shooting for us. They shot this thing off 3 times. And they were probably 150 yards away when they shot it. And they were shooting away from us. And they were shooting at a target that was 2,000 yards away. And they put 3 shots inside of a circle like this. It was just amazing. So what it does is it probably gives us a little more faith in the Army and what they're doing and what they're building, because we don't want to fall behind, but they certainly don't want to show everybody what we have either. But this was quite a vehicle.
There's that insignia a little closer up, but I don't
Yep.
know if you can tell.
There's an actual slide with the
Is it?
insignia
Okay.
on it somewhere. That's just the backside of the tank.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, there it is. Everything about that insignia has something to do with those guys and this whole honoring ceremony that we did, like the Thunderbolts. They meant something, and the bunker meant something, and the sand in the front meant something, and it's all described in different paragraphs on that board. But it was really interesting. So that insignia will be on every one of those tanks that goes out. That's the personal kind of tattoo for these 2 guys that they were honoring. Okay,
And
that's
just
another
another
duplicate.
sign, yeah.
That was one of the primary people that's been in charge of putting this thing into production. So that guy knew everything about every nut and bolt on that tank.
Wow.
I wanted to get in one picture.
We already had the Yankee Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And who's
That's
this?
my brother.
Oh,
Oh, that's.
He lives in
yeah.
Seattle. And they flew in from Seattle also. And I had other cousins that flew in from Denver, so we were,
wait a second here, I gotta figure out where I am, 46, 47, right.
This was the article in the New York Times, April 29th, 1944 newspaper. And it talks about,
Here's a close-up of it.
there's a close-up next, yeah. But I had to show you the first one so you know it was actually in the paper. So no, it's okay. But it just talks about the honoring of the guys that died. That was for the one for Robert Booker.
This says he's 22, is what you
yeah,
said
it was
earlier.
22.
Just a little bit more of the ceremony pictures.
Oh, it's too bad this isn't bigger. See if I can get it a little bit bigger. You can't even see the tank in there.
Yeah, the tank is just to the left of the fireball, but that's the amount of energy that thing produced on one shot. I think there's one more picture.
Here, we got it. We got another one here. But how does it keep it from like shoving it backwards? You know?
Breaks.
Okay. Oh, that's.
This was a deal from the Department of Nebraska that talked about Glenn Booker, that would have been Robert's brother. He also died, and I don't remember the time frame, but
It was a year later,
yeah.
and he was 29.
So Pam's family lost two of their family in a year.
Is this your uncle?
Yeah, that was,
That's her
yeah,
uncle, yep.
that was my Uncle Robert.
And this must be the other.
That was
That's
my Uncle
Glenn.
Glenn, yeah.
Okay.
And they were brothers. And they were brothers, yeah.
I think that's the song that the Army used to sing.
And they sang it when we were there. They were all,
Aww.
yep.
We probably could have done a little better singing that song, but
Down at the bottom, you can't read it, but it says, "To Mr. and Mrs. Dean Booker and all, from your son Robert."
Yeah.
okay, now that's a real interesting picture. That's the other picture that I have of the first or second shot. But out in front of that big fireball, that's the bullet. So you can actually, that was a really good picture, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, to catch that.
Yeah. But that is an awful, oh, and then the one thing that I didn't say is when that thing got shot off, we were 150 yards away. Wow. You could feel that. It took about 2 seconds and then it just went. So
Like
it,
air, or what do you mean?
just the concussion of that shot.
Wow.
But you can tell that's a lot of energy being thrown out of the end of that tank. That's just the article about the World War II hero.
That must have been more local though. What was his
Yeah,
name?
it was.
That was
The Carney Hub? Or
Lincoln Star or something, wasn't it?
Oh, is
It might have been
I think
the
it says Omaha World Herald.
Yeah,
under
it was
here.
in the Omaha World Herald, and then I think in some of the local papers.
I think that's it.
Okay. That's all I got.
That was interesting, yeah.
Very good.
I made him do this. He didn't want to. I made him do it. I just thought this story was incredible. So thank you for doing that for us. Now,
What do we have
we're
left?
at